Hello, my fellow Toastmasters. Today, we would like to welcome one of our gold sponsors for our Malta Link conference, the Malta Tourism Authority. And here to tell us more about the MTA and about some of the wonderful things that we can do while we're in Malta is the Senior Manager, Antonella Aquilina. Welcome, Antonella.
Welcome, David, and welcome everybody else who's here with us today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, and thank you for the opportunity as well, being one of our principal gold sponsors. So I'd like to ask you, Antonella, tell us a little bit about yourself and also about how you help promote Malta.
Okay, so as David mentioned, my name is Antonella Aquilina. I work within the department which handles MICE business for Malta, which is called Visit Malta Incentives and Meetings, obviously part of the Malta Tourism Authority, which is the national organization for tourism for the Maltese Islands. I've been working with MTA, I'm glad to say, for over a decade. I started as a student and then had the opportunity, obviously, to grow within the company. Our primary function as MTA is obviously to promote the destination, but we also have other roles which are lesser known, maybe to the foreign audience, which is basically regulatory and licensing as well, amongst others, obviously, as the National Tourism Board.
Amazing. Wow. And so you've just mentioned some of those ways that you promote Malta, but thinking about, communication and leadership, which is what we do at Toastmasters, what communication approaches have worked best to attract visitors?
Obviously, when we look at communication, especially from, let's say, my department, which handles the marketing aspect, you've got the digital communication, obviously, but then most importantly, and this is something that we really truly believe, is the face-to-face communication, which I do think, especially for the segment we work in, works best. Why? This is an opportunity, obviously, we get to travel out of Malta, where we participate in larger fairs. We also get to participate in workshops and events where we actually meet. And once we have the opportunity to meet with people and at first hand share our experiences and our product, it actually incentivizes them to visit the destination. And once over here, and then communication in the form of hosting familiarization visits, press visits as well, about campaigns that we do, digital campaigns or digital advertising. There's a lot of focus on international journalists or international influencers coming along. So the communication actually takes place firsthand through their own words and through their own experiences. Just to mention a few, we had Peter Greenberg from USA coming over to Malta, giving his opinion about the destination and obviously sharing his thoughts also. So we truly believe that obviously there are the mainstream communication which happen through marketing, but we believe that first-hand communication coming here to the destination and seeing what we have to offer is the best way how to actually experience Malta.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I know our Toastmasters clubs, around the world are often built on that same idea of word of mouth. Come along, come be a visitor, be a guest first, then maybe you'll fall in love. And I'm sure it's true as well for Malta, and a great way to obviously showcase Malta to the world. You mentioned coming to fairs and things. So I invite you to come to Vienna, Austria, where I live, and we could perhaps, connect further, of course. And then likewise, when I come to Malta to visit you as well, Antonella. So leadership is one of our also core qualities. And I've heard that the MTA builds its leadership quality on quality, authenticity, teamwork, and guidance. So I'd like to ask you, how do these principles, perhaps for you, actually help tourists and local businesses?
Obviously, offering an authentic experience is one of the primary objectives that we have as a tourism board, because we want to obviously showcase what the destination really has to offer and what is different from any other Mediterranean island or destination. The authenticity is led through collaboration, mostly with our stakeholders. We work very close to our stakeholders, whether it is travel agencies, hotels, venues, where we try our best to foster a team spirit quality and endurance as well, where we come together. And that's actually one of our best points as a destination, I can say, for miles. People do comment about the familiar feeling that there is, or the fact that people are so open to collaborating together, always helps out even more. So that's one of the leading traits that puts us apart from any other destination, I must say. Quality always remains very important. There's always this conversation about quality tourism, quality investment, and MTA, together with the ministry, continues to work hard as much as they can in order to improve on quality, because if we lose our authenticity, if we lose our product, then it's not only for us, but also for the locals. Because obviously when it comes to tourism, we're not just talking about the tourists coming over, but it's actually the locals as well who benefit, but also contribute very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we have our top management who lead us in a very open manner. They are always open to listen to us. It is very strong on teamwork. And I think that is one of our pluses as well. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I remained. I started here and I've been working here, because it's an opportunity for growth. And we tend to take things a little bit for granted sometimes. I can say for myself, I'm Maltese. But when I actually have the opportunity to meet tourists, foreigners, I get to see the island in a different way and always discover things which are new, which I'm sure conferences like the ones which Toastmasters will be hosting is actually an opportunity for the locals as well to savor the part of the tourist experience too.
Yeah, I love that. I'm not sure where Malta ranks on the friendliness scales, but I'm sure it sounds like it's quite high in that sense, that people can really feel like, as you said, part of the local atmosphere, or that sense of community that you have as well. And what you'll find, I'm sure you'll be at our conference, is that same sense of community comes through as Toastmasters. So we're spread right across Europe, but this conference event helps us to come together face to face, as you said before, and to really experience not only Malta, but the community of the greater Toastmasters, where we go beyond borders and we're really able to form, solid relationships for the future. And I'd like to take a turn now. I was having a look at your website, visitmalta.com. And truly inspired by the vibrancy and the colors, and looking at the amazing different activities and things that I can experience. So Malta, has Mediterranean charm, as you mentioned before, and quite a substantial history. So what hidden spots would you recommend perhaps to some of our travelers, our Toastmasters, who want something a little bit different?
Okay, what I can definitely tell you, there are some places which obviously you will find on a guidebook, and I strongly recommend that if you are visiting Malta at least once, you have to visit. And those are sites such as St. John's Co-Cathedral. Very important that you visit with maybe one of the local guides. We also have guides which are focusing more on either tourism subjects which maybe are not known to many. So you can have a tour about Valletta and St. John's Cathedral, where you find out all the hidden secrets. Like you mentioned, the historical element in our story is very strong. So once you come on the island, you will actually feel it and see it, whether it's, for example, the temples that one would visit, whether you're taking a stroll in Valletta Harbor and seeing the landscape and the seascape. So you see the historical elements, for example, of the knights or of the war, for example. I would say the hidden gems are where we locals tend to go for some peace and for some tranquility out of the ordinary. Now, I don't know most people know, but we are obviously more than just Malta. There is also Gozo and there's Comino. Now in Gozo, which is our sister island, there are a number of beaches which are very secluded, which are obviously accessible to people. But there are places like, for example, San Blas, where you actually go there and you are one with nature. So you get that feeling of the cultural roots that brought Malta together and Gozo together as an island. So I would say that. Other places where maybe some people don't really know about, there's actually Heritage Malta, which are our partners who focus on heritage. In 2021, they actually worked and opened Underground Valletta, which is a very different way of visiting the capital city, because you actually get to go underground of Valletta. It's the story about it. I mean, it's very oriented, obviously, about the war, because people used to use Valletta. It's underground area, obviously, for safety and for shelter. But once you go down, you actually, when we went, for example, as a team over here, we had a team visit. It's something out of the ordinary, because you feel like you're in a different world. So that is something that I would include as part of my visit if I was coming to Malta.
Yeah, wow. So maybe some club members could go, or maybe those who want to come back to Malta for a team building. It sounds like a great way perhaps to experience something completely different from your standard team building activities that might help businesses or organizations thinking about coming to that. So before we move into business, I have one last question here. You've just mentioned so many different things, so it really feels like Malta has something to offer everyone. But tell us more about maybe some of the food journeys that could come from Malta, or other kind of cuisine elements that people could expect to find.
Okay, so as Maltese, we're very proud of our cuisine and our local gastronomy. Very strong, actually, on the production of wine. So there are a number of wineries here in Malta, some of which actually grow local endemic grapes. And then when it comes to the food, obviously there's a lot of influence from the Italian, the Sicilian, the Arabic, but the products which we have obviously nowadays are what we consider to be local Maltese food. Something definitely worth tasting, I would say, is the traditional pastizi, we call them. Which are basically, there's a selection either made out of cheeselets or else out of peas. Very synonymous apparently with Naples as well. They have a sweet version to it. There are the imaret, which are the dates. It's a pastry filled with dates. And the actual food which we like for example, there's timpana, which is baked pasta. There's a lot which one can actually savor. Probably you'll have the opportunity during the conference itself, because most of the hotels actually integrate some local flavors. If not, there are quite a lot of spots around the island where one can actually savor something local. The most important, if you're looking for something local, do stop a person who looks Maltese or ask, because they would know the hideaway spots most of the time. So that is where you actually get to savor the proper local food.
That sounds fantastic. Wow. And I'm sure, at the end of a long day of the conference, a wander around parts of the island, as you said, ask a local where to go in that specific area of the island, and then you might get something a little bit special and out of the ordinary. So these delicacies already sound very nice. Very nice. So as you mentioned, you really support businesses and the event potential, and obviously our conference is perhaps a part of your calendar for this year. So beyond a vacation visit for some, you did say Malta attracts significant business events. So what makes Malta a great destination for meetings and conferences?
Definitely, it's location, meaning being part, like, in the middle of Europe, in the middle of the Mediterranean, so easy access to different flight connections, and international, obviously, airlines coming to Malta and operating from Malta in and out. So it makes us a hub. So that really is one of the pluses, not only for the European countries, but also when we're looking at long-haul countries. Another feature, which is actually one of our pluses, which people take for granted, is the fact that we speak in English. So English being we obviously have Maltese as our first language, but English is not the other language that we speak. So the communication obviously it's much easier to communicate. The climate, even though obviously we cannot guarantee the sunshine all the time, but we do say there's over 360 days of sunshine. So that comes to our advantage. We've got people swimming already. So whoever is actually visiting for the conference, I suggest you pack your bathing suit and your sunscreen, obviously.
Fantastic.
Apart from that, we have international chains, hotel chains and brands, which comes to as a surprise to a number of foreigners, because obviously it's an investment done from the international chains such as the Hilton, Intercontinental, Marriott, which are very strong on conferences. But we also then have our fair share of locally led companies as well as hotels.
Okay.
We have a number of convention centers also, which obviously help us bring conferences and expos to the island. And another thing, we also have obviously very, very good service providers such as destination management companies, audiovisual companies, which actually come together and so far have always succeeded in the productions that they've done so far. So this is one of the reasons why, as a destination, Malta is very strong in MICE business, which is the meetings and incentives part. Because we do have an infrastructure which is sustainable and sustains the actual business. So this is one thing that we do as MTA to promote business coming into Malta.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And maybe for an annual retreat where you might have several hundred people coming together, business leaders, and they want to incorporate culinary delights, maybe some artistic or culture moments, the tour of the island, like you mentioned, some of these secret spots. It really does, as well as obviously then doing the work and having the conference facilities to support an important event. That really sounds fantastic. What about, for people thinking about business investments, so maybe a more long-term or integrating part of their business? So what advantages does the island offer for business investors?
Obviously, there are a number of advantages. One of them, I would definitely say, obviously, we're part of the European Union. So even transaction-wise and investment-wise, that has helped us a lot. There's investment actually from the government with a number of schemes or incentives, which maybe are renewed on a yearly basis or else introduced long-term. Also, the points which I mentioned before related to the business aspect. So, for example, English speaking, ease of communication, that is one thing which obviously helps as well for the investment for people who are trying to invest business-wise coming to Malta. And our position being a hub also through the connections which we have. Even for shipment purposes, for example, we're very strong on shipment. Shipping, also being an island, we're surrounded by the sea. So there's a lot of potential, and we've seen investment taking place, but mostly it is driven through the collective effort of the government in order to move forward for opportunities for the foreigners as well as for the Maltese. So because even though we are a small country and we don't really have any natural resources in order to invest or manufacture, there are other alternative ways on how the business is brought to Malta and how business is actually done out of Malta too.
Wow, that's fantastic, Antonella. And obviously, a country and an island really focused on prosperity for really hearing for local people, as well as you said, for those who are either visiting or those who are coming to invest in some way. So a couple of questions to close our time, and really thank you for your insights already. I'd like to ask, what's one hidden gem in Malta that you believe, maybe from a personal point of view, that you believe every visitor should experience, but we might not find in the regular guidebooks?
I would say actually finding a spot in Valletta in the area of Marsamxett to actually go early in the morning to see sunrise. That is something which is quite breathtaking, because you actually get to see the colors. Obviously, there's the seascape, there's the horizon. It's very magical. It makes you really feel different. So that is something that definitely I would encourage anyone to do.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. And you mentioned before a lot of sunshine, but if you had to describe Malta in one sentence, what would it be?
I would say, I like to say the Maltese Islands, so that we include Gozo and Comino as well. So it's definitely the Maltese Islands are a treasure trove waiting to be discovered. Something for everybody, depending on the interest. And it is an opportunity also to save the local hospitality. So you coming to Malta will give you the opportunity to experience Malta for what it truly is. So I would say that.
That sounds beautiful. And you've motivated me, Antonella, to definitely come and participate and to get to know the Maltese Islands and the people and the cuisine, the identity, and of course, thinking about combining that in some way with business or, an event. Obviously, we have the Malta Link event coming up. So thank you again for your time and your thoughts. It's really been a pleasure to talk to you. And just a final reminder for those watching, if you haven't gotten your ticket, you can still get online tickets. So I'll be there online as I'm unable to come to the island this time, but I'll be booking my ticket at some point, Antonella, based on our discussion today. And I've had previous discussions. We have also our Professor Manjon. I've spoken to and interviewed her recently. So the university sounds very prosperous. And as an academic myself, I'm looking forward to trying to connect with her. So I hope we get to meet in person. As you said, face-to-face is preferred. And thank you again for your time. And for all those who are watching, thanks for watching on to this interview with Antonella Aquilina, our Senior Manager from the MTA. Thanks, Antonella. Have a good day.
Thank you all, and looking forward to meeting you in Malta. Thanks.